There's people who can do that. There are many. But they need to be given an opportunity to do that. So, if you want to know, we're working on a project to develop a martial art training center in Mayapur right now.
Okay.
Jayapataka Maharaj has given his blessings and his, what we say, do it. So, yeah. And he is one of the most, like you say, he's really in favor of developing that because he knows anything can happen, especially in Mayapur. I mean, there's so many thousands of people who come in. And the screening process is not there. People just come in. Right? He can tell you about some of the incidents that happened. Okay, but that's one aspect. Still, we need Brahmins who are trained in their service. And, but the essence is devotional service. Okay. Any other comments, questions on anything so far? Yes, Sukash?
Can some devotees exhibit like two qualities in their guna, like
Yeah.
can it be a Brahmin and a Kshatriya?
Yeah, they're mixed. They may be very rabbinically inclined, but they also have maybe a very strong organizational nature, which is also falls into the category of Kshatriya. So there are mixed varnas, yeah. Okay. Okay, here we go. This is, who knows who that is?
Hungary? Is that Hungary? Wow.
I think the only person knows is Shrutakirti Guru.
Parmananda.
Varnasrama. He was in Vrindavan when he first started. I was there with him. But he didn't like Vrindavan because we weren't developing cow protection and agriculture, so he left. And Girinagari was just getting started at that time. He came to Girinagari and he developed it really to a very high level of activity. His whole mode is agriculture, cow protection, like that. Simple living. Yeah. And then we have the results here. Nice. Prabhupada said, the food you grow on our farms are 100 times more nutritious than what you buy on the outside world. We know that. People are getting sick from eating. Okay, so you can read.
This is the next aspect of Krishna consciousness which I wish to push forward. On these farms, we can demonstrate the full Varnasrama system. If these farms become successful, then the whole world will be enveloped by Krishna consciousness.
See, this is Prabhupada's vision. If we can make these farms everywhere, people will come. People will come. Not so much for the spiritual aspect, but because of the ideal material arrangement. Okay. Is that it? Okay, then, let's see. Yeah, okay, so we'll get to the questions now. All the questions came up at once. It should have been like that. It's supposed to be one at a time. Okay. There you go. All right, and before we get into the questions and answers, hold your other questions. We'll get into this first. Okay, so this is like a recap of what we just discussed. Explain why Srila Prabhupada's one lamentation before leaving this world was that he hadn't established Varnasrama.
Krishna. So, Sri Prabhupada wanted to develop Varnashram because after 1977 he prominently saw in the society that devotees are falling down and there's an acute need of Varnashram.
Yeah. Although devotees are engaged in devotional service, still they're not able to stay fixed in Krishna consciousness. Good. Next one.
Compare the 4 Varnas to 4 parts of the human body.
Anyone? That's an easy one.
Head is Brahmana. I don't know.
The Brahmins present head, and the Kshatriya hand,
Arms.
arms, the Vaishya hands, and the Shudra legs.
Yeah. So Prabhupada would use that analogy to show that a healthy body contains all 4 of these that are working together. So if one part of it is not working, it may affect the other one. And if the head is not working, the whole body is useless. Therefore, the head is the most important because it guides the rest of the body in the activities. Same way in the social body. Okay. What does Vedic Varnasrama mean?
Krishna? Is it where devotional service supersedes or transcends any of the material varnas? Is it where devotional service transcends any of the varnas? Because
Yeah.
the varnas are material, but
What's the verse in the Bhagavad Gita?
I don't know Maharaj.
434 or 413? 413.
Right.
Chaturvanyam maya shrishtam gunakarma vibhagashah.
In Vedic times, the support and cooperation were mostly through samskars. Although Varnashram was there, people generally didn't follow Varnashram, but they followed the samskars. Now even the samskars are dead. Samskar before birth, and then there are out of the Dasa Vidya samskars, out of the 10, 6 are considered to be very essential, prominent. And Prabhupada says nobody's following, therefore Kalo Sutra something like everyone in this age is born with no qualities and has to be brought out by education. Making money is not necessarily a quality that is considered to be glorifiable. Because there are people who have money who never did anything. They simply inherited it. Or they have good karma and money just comes their way. So that part is not so much glorifying. That's what the material world looks towards as success. Those who are the successful and honorable people are considered the people who are wealthy. But we say intelligence is higher than material assets. Because by intelligence you can do so many things. Material assets you can manipulate also. That is actually something that falls into the lower modes.
So just to clarify more, the difference between Varnashram and Devi Varnashram, they still have the 4 Varnas and ashrams in both, but are we saying in Devi Varnashram there's no kind of hierarchy because it's on a spiritual level? Is that the key difference?
There's no center. The center is Krishna in Devi Varnashram, which is the only center. Krishna is the center, and when everyone is working according, when the head is there, then the arms, the legs, and the belly can work according to the direction of the head. Is that okay? Okay. All right, next question. Explain the term dormant Varnasrama.
This is illustrated by Srila Prabhupada explaining to Professor Kotowski
Right.
that these 4 varnas already exist in human society because they come from God.
Right. And because they were creation of the original creator, they exist everywhere. You see it. You see people have different natures, and everyone fits into one of the 4. But because there's no direction, there's no real benefit. There's no systematic organization where they cooperate amongst each other. It's more like in the material world, it's all competitive rather than working in a cooperative way, because when there's no center, then it's competitiveness. When there's a center, then there's cooperation. And even when they create a false center, like in the material world, sometimes they do that, it doesn't last. For instance, the United Nations, they created this idea that we all should work together to bring peace in the world. But then Prabhupada would say, well, each of the nations have their own national interests. So when they meet, they usually are talking according to their own national interests. So where's the center? And therefore, you can see, although the United Nations has been here for how many years? 70 years, 50 years, I don't know. Still, there's so many conflicts in the world because there's no center. Good, that was good, thank you. What are some of the symptoms of the materialistic Varnashram?
People are just working for money.
Yeah. Yeah, we saw the guy with, like this. Or the Brahmin saying, I'm a Brahmin, therefore you should honor me. Claiming power, wanting to have privilege by birthright, like that. Okay. God is Santa Claus. When we're the kids that get all the presents. And if he doesn't deliver, we make sure that he's not honoring his position. Yeah, so yeah. Okay, good. What are the 4 principles of we saw those 4. We saw Krishna, we saw the cows, we saw the college, then we saw Prabhupada. So which ones, what do they all represent? These are the 4 principles that make up divine Varnashram in today's world, not just in general.
A worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
It's first, yeah.
Cow care, cow protection.
Yes.
Worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which I said, sorry.
Yeah.
Brahminical culture, education and training.
Education and training is number 3.
And worship of the Guru.
The 4th one was Prabhupada is there applying Daivi Varnasrama according to time, place, candidate. Not just a carte blanche application, but applying it accordingly. And there's where the spiritual master comes in and gives the final understanding. Education. Okay. Simple living, plain living, high thinking, like that. Because if you live simply, you have time to think. If you're so busy living, you don't have time for thinking. So we usually say, gorgeous living, no thinking. Oh, I'm so busy making sure my living standards are up there. There's no time to really contemplate what is the actual goal of life. Or how to even if I know the goal of life, how to reach the goal of life. No thinking. Any comments on that? Plain living, high thinking, the benefits of simple living, which is the basis of Varnashram.
So that is when you say that AI is just the demon, so that's what AI is doing. That's what AI is doing. That is making the gorgeous living.
They're throwing people out of work.
Yeah, and then the people are like, if they have no work, then the mind is idle, and then they become a demon thinking.
Yeah, she's mentioning artificial intelligence, AI, which is another introduction by the demoniac society to maximize the amount of activities and minimize the amount of money you pay people. We don't need people, we can do it by robots. And it's also a way of controlling people too, so that's the other aspect of it. This fly is trying to make sure that he's working according to his nature. And he's chose me as his service. Oh yes, okay.
We saw on the slides about cities and that they're still needed, but then we also hear about the farm communities. I think I'm still struggling to understand what Prabhupada meant by simple living, high thinking, the farm communities, but at the same time the cities are also...
Yeah,
to get rid of
well, for the farms, he wanted that as the model to pull the rest of the world in. He saw that people will be looking for, he said, as the 1973, Prabhupada made a statement. You can hear it, it's in my book, Krishna's Way, Natural Living. It's the QR code in the back of the book. He said in 50 years, Western style societies will collapse. It's collapsing now. It's not going to collapse all at once, but it's in a state of going down. Quality of life is becoming more and more animalistic, and everything centers around money. Money. So Prabhupada knew that in order to give people an opportunity who will be looking for something as society starts to collapse, he said, we have these farms and they will come. And we'll give them some work and engage them in that way. And then when they get sufficiently engaged, then we can gradually introduce the spiritual aspect. So he said, we'll bring people in by Varna, not by ashram. That was his vision. And he really elaborated on it. You can, if you go through his statements. Okay. See, we got some more. Describe Prabhupada's application of Varnashram to ISKCON over 3 periods. Tough one, right? What was the 3 periods?
1966 to 1973,
Mm-hmm.
Srila Prabhupada said, forget Varnashram. Society is too topsy-turvy.
Right.
And focus on Harinam Sankirtan and get people to chant Hare Krishna. But from 74 to 77, Prabhupada...
No, 74 to 76.
76, sorry, I'm sorry, yes. Srila Prabhupada said, no, we have to institute Varnashram because to become Vaishnava is not so easy, because so easy, why are so many people falling down? And then in 1977, Prabhupada absolutely emphasized it by saying we need Varnashram. And this is my lamentation that I have not established Varnashram.
Yeah, he said, this is the need of the time now. Mm-hmm. Okay, good. And the last one. Somebody read.
Explain why establishing Varnashram was Prabhupada's ultimate strategy for spreading Krishna consciousness worldwide. We have been slow to take up the challenge.
Why are we kind of like hanging around and still nothing's happening? Or nothing much is happening. Something's happening. Can't say nothing's happening.
We're waiting for someone else to do it.
No, Shruti Kirti Prabhu, give him the microphone.
After being with Prabhupada for 16 months, I left his service. Candramauli Swami, he sent a letter to Prabhupada, sent Shruti Kirti back to New Vrindavan. Prabhupada didn't even read the letter to me, he just said, Kirtananda wants you to go back to New Vrindavan. And I said, I don't want to go back to New Vrindavan, I have plans to go to Caracas, Venezuela. A few months later, in England, they were asking for 2 devotees from every temple to come because they were going to develop a farm community. Prabhupada said, Shruti Kirti won't even go back to the farm. He said, people don't want to be on the farm. Sometimes I say in lectures, if you want farmers devotees, you have to make farmers devotees. You can't make devotees in the city and you're going to happily run to the farm.
Right.
In general, that's what it's like. Because simple living doesn't mean easy living. It's work. It's work. But the whole idea, Prabhupada in 75 said, soon there'll be World War III. And then he said, after the war, they'll be coming to the farms in millions. But we've made a little progress. And I see in other countries like South America, they have some very nice farms. And the devotees, they were farmers, and they became devotees. So that's the easiest way to see, the progress go on in that way. But otherwise, it's always a challenge. But Prabhupada would say you can't eat nuts and bolts. You have to plant food if you want food. So as you say, these days are coming soon. And hopefully we'll be better prepared when they start coming in hundreds and thousands.
Yeah.
And I also appreciated Candramauli Swami in the later days. Prabhupada was there, and after he was developing that Varnashram community in New Vrindavan. Those that they would just work, have prasadam, and that was the extent of their activity.
I was on the farm for 20 years, and when I left, the last thing they said to me, "You're a city boy." I said, "Why did you tell me that 20 years ago?" I kind of knew it, but I didn't really, it was like Gupta. Yeah.
We have thousands of IT workers who are devotees, but they haven't learned how to work on a farm either, how to be on a computer.
Yeah, but what you say is completely correct, and it's the absolute truth in one sense, but there's another point to this, to slow to take up the challenge, and that is, Prabhupada said different things. And so they quote different things about what Prabhupada said about Varnasrama. And therefore, they even quote him from the early days when they say Varnasrama was not possible. So there is differences of opinion about actually, not only how to do it, but what Prabhupada said about it. Yeah.
We know that the later instruction always
Yeah.
cancels the previous instruction.
Right, that's the essence, yeah.
I suppose maybe we should just answer the question, but often nowadays we hear people say, well, Prabhupada said this and Prabhupada said that, but how do we, as an individual, decide which one is correct?
Take some intelligence.
Whatever the latest is.
Yeah, that Prabhupada also said it takes some intelligence to understand things according to time, place, and circumstance. How to apply the knowledge accordingly. Not every situation has the same application of the knowledge. You have to use your intelligence to see. And if you can't use your intelligence, then you go to someone who has the intelligence, and they can give you the direction. So the leaders in society should be able to direct everyone. So although we may not be in a position of leadership, we can still initiate things, but at the same time, if we're not sure on what we're doing, then we should take help from those who have that acumen, those who have that experience. Yeah.
Could you give some advice on if you're in a situation where it's the leader that is possibly using Prabhupada's quotes?
That's Sruti Kirti Prabhu can handle that question. The question was, when the leader is off, what do you do?
Replace them.
What do you say? Give him some prashadam?
That's why we have so much training going on now in Mayapur every year. We're trying to train leaders. Leaders, of course, Prabhupada is always training leaders. It's Kali Yuga. It's not getting easier. As you see, it's getting worse. All this AI stuff. I saw a devotee. I asked him to do something. He just got on his chat GT, gave a few words, and wrote this whole letter. I have no idea, but it's scary. Just taking away our brains. Brains are being, like you said, in order to control, that's what you do. Take away the brain.
Yeah, and to be a leader should be a process of training and not just filling in a slot. Yeah. That's what we did. When people actually wanted to be leaders, they were vying for positions also. That was pretty much the history. Because you could get Prabhupada's association if you were a leader.
And the ones that want to be leaders, they leave school. Like you see big billionaire jobs and this and that. Because the whole educational system is to not make you a leader, it's to make you a follower. Make you follow the crowd. That's what we're taught to do from the very beginning. It's challenging.
Yeah. Okay? Okay, we're at the end, and so now, break time. We'll see you all back at 11:30 for